Disclaimer. In the ensuing video, I address the habits of a personal friend of mine, Milk Mers, and refer to this individual under a false identity. Let it be known that his, or rather her, identity has since been revealed to me, and the imperfections observed here shall be amended in the final part. My apologies to Milk Mers for this obvious error in my judgment. Also, in this particular installment, I bring up the preceding and ensuing events of a great personal tragedy. These are merely for the sake of providing context to the events that took place in my journey from iniquity, and I trust that they will not be viewed by anyone as being in poor taste. That is all. This is part 4 of my series called Why I Left the Belly Community. In the last part, I had discussed basically my introduction into masturbation, and I suppose how at the end of the day I wanted to try and kick the habit. And I had intimated in that video that I was quick to return. In that previous video, I had sounded very, very knackered indeed, because I had been up since 2 in the morning. I was tired. I wasn't at all ready to do anything. But since then, I've had, a 4 or 5 hour break. I've had a shower. I've had breakfast. And I'm feeling quite a bit chipper. Quite a bit more chipper, rather. And am willing to talk more on these matters. So, without further ado, I suppose I shall get into it. Hopefully, these subjects won't distress me too much, because at the end of it, it's I'm going to delve deeply into an event that is exceedingly pivotal in my life, I must say, and all occurred last year. So, this all takes place from, I suppose, about 2018 until last year of 2020, and I will get into it. So, as you know from the last part, Marina Fuentes had posted her final video in which she said she was ready to pop, because obviously she was with child during the whole course of her stuffing career, and so could not continue doing this, and and obviously had to take over child. And I took in this information and said, well, it probably is for the best. We probably won't even see her again, because there have been several cases in which people who have been with child have, posted maybe 2 or 3 videos whilst they were, and never posted anything again for 10 years and are still offline. So it was inevitable that I would decide, I'm just going to try to quit this little habit of mine. Obviously, I was influenced by 40s nutcase whose father had quit smoking voluntarily, because he said, I'm gonna go ahead and kick these for once. And I decided to do the same thing. All of these accounts were basically pretty much dead at the time, and really I had other things to do with my life, and I didn't want this per se to be interfering with my own affairs. However, and I don't recall exactly when this was, Marina Fuentes decided to return. Yes, she decided to return. This time she was not with child, but rather was still of a very bloated, a very bloated frame. and character and such, and still looked very much like she was with child, which was part of the reason behind my attraction to her. And I'm sure it was part of the reason for many people's attractions to her. And so this incited a revival in my lust, and I went back into my whole horrid state of mindless masturbation. It was just revivified, or it was vivified rather, and I just went back into the same thing over and over again. Only problem was that the videos that she would put them out in not the same frequency that she would in former days. For instance, she would put out a video, I don't know, maybe once every month. And I'll get into the reason why here in just a moment. But it was, at the time, not enough to quench my appetite for them, pun intended. And so what I decided to do was, pretty much since all these accounts were dead, I had not at the time conceived of subscribing to any of these channels because I did not want to be found out at all. I was very clever. As I said, you will be amazed just how ingenious I was back then. I decided not to subscribe to any of these channels until one day when pretty much, I discerned that all of these were pretty well dead, but their videos were still of some quality or other that to where they would merit re-watching and obviously masturbating to. So I subscribed to innumerable older accounts. I think I might even have a list here of the ones to which I used to be subscribed. This is a more recent list, but I used to be subscribed to quite a few back in the day. If I can find them, let's see. Instagram. Okay, here we are. There was Alex MG, Alexandria Disick. Oh, she's a newer one. Let me try and see if I can find some older ones here. Amortentia Dolores 98, however you say that. Let's see. There are a few others here. Belly Admirer 2 or 27. Let's see. Big Belly Brit 90. Nanya. Obviously, Brandit Moss again. California Daffodil. All these accounts were dead, pretty much, or just really not that active at all. Chubby Kitten 33. Chubby Belly Toy again. Emily Thorne. Actually, that's another later one, even though she is an older account. But that's a later one I subscribed to. Eternelia Celeste, that's a French name. I don't quite know how to pronounce that, even though I do pronounce French particularly well, I find. Among many others. Left to my vices. What else is there? Miss Bouncy Belly 22. Monkey Woman 5000. Muffin Belly Love. Newbie 9224 again. Ruby Boop Oh La La. Let's see. Sky's the Limit 81894. All kinds of videos. And so I would just watch and rewatch all of these old videos and would be very pleased with myself, gratifying myself to just non-stop repetition, which, to be honest, it's a sort of a vain repetition now, if you ask me. But now for the reason why Marina Fuentes did not upload nearly as often as she used to. So, she, I suppose, had run something of an illegal business in which she would put out short, about 2 or 3 minute videos on her YouTube channel, and in the description she would leave a link to, I suppose, her email, which went by the very apropos nomenclature of 3 round mountains. For those of you who know why, or for those of you who are curious, you could probably understand why they're called, she was called 3 round mountains. I need not say why, but from the context clues you can pretty well discern that for yourselves. And basically she would ask for improbable amounts of money, really, from these peoples, and they would send this stuff to her. They would. And it was maddening, really, just how many people were duped by this woman, because I have myself never done this. I've never inquired about her longer videos, but I have heard from many people that she was a fake, that she took your money and did not give you any videos in return. She was very mendacious. I even heard somewhere that wasn't even her in the videos. It was probably a man or something, though I don't know. I hear that some men have larger breasts than women, I suppose, on account of increased estrogen levels in milk. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. So because of this, I suppose, I continued to, I would watch whatever new videos she did put out, no matter how minuscule or really unimpressive they were, and I would still obviously masturbate to those, along with the many old accounts, until I thought that they started to grow just a little stale, and I had wanted something more, something new, something that would give me that same joyful nausea, even though it still gave me that thrill, that joyful nausea that I had first experienced. Because, in all honesty, every consecutive time, every time that you masturbate, it feels less and less satisfying. You will come to know this, especially if you do it multiple times a day. You will be less and less satisfied with it. You might even wonder why it is you're doing it at all. In fact, you might even consider perhaps doing it maybe once a week or month, just to get that same sensation that you first got when you first ejaculated to whoever or whatever. And so I'd crave for something new. So, oh my word, I am so sorry, Lord, about all of this. But I decided to peruse the adult websites. Yes, the adult websites, I'm going to list them off here. StufferDB, which was actually, at the time, a fairly ingenious, but now quite an ignominious site in which anyone could post onto there the archived videos of any old or defunct creator of content and just have it there for all to see. I remember there were videos by The Belly Girl. There were videos by the rather enigmatic Mary Rupp. There were videos by, oh God, what's her name? Stuffed Belly Babe. Another instance in which I realized that my especial kink were noises of the stomach. Thankfully, I was not a coprophile. I just very much like the preceding noises. Anyhow, that was one of those websites. Chubby Love was also on there too. And then another website, Tube Safari, which basically had all sorts of videos, even like conventional pornography. I tried to stay away from that, but mainly went on there to see the likes of people like BBW Layla of Australia, Helena Strong, who I'll actually get a quote from her here. This actually, I guess, justified myself not thinking this pornography at all. I can find it here. I am looking on Wikipedia, so it might take me a little while to actually come and find this at all. But anyway, I can't find it at the moment. But what? Oh, no, here it is. Essentially, Helena Strong, she was a professional adult film, I guess, model and such. And this, I suppose, at the time, justified myself not thinking any of this pornography. She says here, people admire my belly. The only thing I expose is my belly. Most guys with belly fetishes get embarrassed if they see me fully naked. That is very true. Very true indeed. And so I strayed away from that stuff. That was one of the sites. DeviantArt, which isn't specifically for pornography exclusively, but it basically predominates the whole thing. I would see still pictures, mind you, but they were pornography nonetheless. I would see people like Meg the Belly Stuffer, or Bella Berea, or I can't think of the other name. People like that. And I would ejaculate to still pictures. It didn't even have to have gurgles. Just, that's how mad it was. And then, obviously, the big one, Pornhub. Yes. Where I would see the likes of Julie. What's her name? Curvy Papaya. And the queen of them all, Amy. All from Stuffer 31. And I would log on to these accounts just for the purpose of viewing this. Because, let me tell you, these videos, most of these videos I saw for free. In fact, all of them I saw for free. Because here's the dark truth behind most of these people. And I am qualified to talk about this. But what they did was they so unscrupulously downloaded the content of others from various websites, YouTube being among them, and without credit, reposted them upon adult websites. This is a very dangerous thing to do. You could go to prison for this. From what I gather, I believe you can. I'm not entirely sure. But I must confess, I have done it. Yes, indeed. Under the pretense of, I saw that pretty much, these were dead, these channels, and it was likely that they would never return, and that shortly after they'd be deleted, perhaps, maybe because of lack of interest and such. So I decided to do this myself and post them on to these websites for archival purposes. And I would actually credit these original creators because, I wanted to preserve their legacy, so-called. So I was one of the better, I guess, better individuals of the bunch, I suppose. I was still very wicked. But I did it anyhow. And then, as I would continue to alternate between YouTube and the adult websites, I would stumble upon people who were very kind and very encouraging of this fetish of mine. And one in particular, you all very well know who this is. He is a great supporter of this channel. He goes by the name of Milk Mers. And I came across him when I was contemplating on doing reviews. I was doing YouTube at the time. When I was contemplating on doing reviews of fetish models and such and all that. And I saw that he did reviews of the big ones. He did videos on Rihanna Pop. He did ones on Azzy Smith. He did ones on CGV. I forgot to mention CGV. Yes, she was another one that was on there. Who else was there? Just all these other people of note or repute he would do videos on. And at the time, I thought him to be a tremendous help to the community. What he was doing was absolutely wonderful in my eyes back then. And I subscribed to his channel. And, you know, just conversed back and forth with him. And I said, hello, you know, you're doing a great job in chronicling all of not only the careers of these women, but also their life stories. You saved me so much time and work that I just want to commend you from the bottom of my heart. Keep doing what you're doing, and you will have my continued support. I'm not sure if those are actual words I've said, but the significance is still there. And so Milkmers and I became, you know, something of acquaintances. And he even subscribed to my channel and obviously would comment upon my videos and such. But yes, that's how wicked these people are. As I said, they take videos from people and post them onto all of these adult websites and basically make this into pornography. It already is pornography itself, but puts emphasis on the fact that it is, and just makes one feel just so dirty. It's unbelievable. But, of course, I was not aware of this at the time. I will, of course, get into more on that business later, but I have more things to talk about. Milkmers was, I suppose, the pariah of the industry in terms of archiving these women and such, and providing pictorial views into their lives, and as such received quite a number of comments from various commenters who would comment on all these videos. And the reason why I'm bringing up the commenters again is because here is yet another wicked thing that they do. And as I said, I have done this myself. I've mentioned this in the previous part in which they schemed and connived and managed to bend an innocent person to their will. I did the very same thing. There was a user on here. There still is a user on here called Soft N, not N, but N, Squishy. That's all one word. She did belly noises exclusively. And every once in a while, she would show off her rather rotund stomach. And would, I suppose, play with it and such and all that, and express how hard it was from, I guess, whatever she had eaten and such. And I had noticed, in watching these videos, that it was inclined to slosh without her knowing it. And so, as I watched these videos, I got into my sick and depraved mind the notion that perhaps maybe I could do something for my own benefit. I could bend her to my own will. And so, in early 2019, I watched quite a few of her videos and actually commented on a number of them. And I asked her, or I said to her, your videos are absolutely tremendous. If you don't mind me making a suggestion, I noticed that your stomach on certain occasions was inclined to slosh. Could you perhaps put it upon yourself to produce various sloshing videos? That would be much appreciated. You want to know what she did? She went ahead and complied. And every single video that she put out after I had suggested she do so were sloshings. And I just reveled in this. This was something new for me, along with the adult websites and the old accounts and such that I would rewatch consistently. I finally had someone bend to my will and make videos for me. I thought this was absolutely ingenious of me. Absolutely ingenious. But I have no idea why this is. After a short while, she started to stray away from the sloshing videos and started just to go back to the traditional belly noise videos. When I say traditional belly noise videos, I mean with the microphone shoved up against your stomach. You can't even see anything. It's black and the noises and such are very amplified. And all this annoying rubbish. That's what I mean by that. What I made her do was show her stomach and show it gyrating and such and all that. She stopped doing that and went to doing this traditional dross. And she talked profusively of her boyfriend and how she did not necessarily want to show too much of her person because of this. And so I basically fell away from her, but still continued to masturbate to the older accounts and even still patrol the adult websites. We flash forward to the year 2020, when I, for 6 months, take up a house-sitting gig in which I paid rent to some landlords whilst they were out on holiday, and I was basically given the whole run of the house, except maybe for one room, and I had to look after their dog. That was the only condition. I had to look after their 15-year-old deaf and blind Bichon poodle. But I had the whole house to myself. I could sleep there, I could write there, I could cook there, and most importantly to me, I could masturbate there. And I did so close to every day. all hours of the day. And to be honest, at the time, I thought that this was simply tremendous, simply wonderful. And I would alternate from the website still. Main reason why is because on a lot of the adult websites, these reposts were free, as I said, and they would continue to come out from these reposters. And I would just be thrilled at seeing videos that I would have to pay for, but could not see it as right to do so, because were I to take out some money, it would somehow come back to my mother and father, and they would begin to question me as to, why did you take out this money? I suppose I could have said that it was for the sake of buying some books, and they would have believed that, but still, I didn't want to risk it. And so I'd alternate between these websites. And it should be mentioned that I, for a great part of my masturbation stint, had done so in bed, and had done so without actually touching the skin of my member. What I would do was I would place my hand down my trousers and actually begin to fondle the outlined area of my knickers until I was erect and such, and obviously the subsequent eruption and such, all that had transpired and such, and I would just deposit the resultant fluids thereof into the loo. That's what I would do every day. But then, that year, I noticed a sudden revival in not only old accounts, but new ones as well. There were plenty of new ones that were generated, and I found them to be of exceptional quality back then. Of course, not now. There were accounts such as Soda Button Pop. There were accounts such as, let's see, who was there? Royal Belly Mom. There were accounts such as, and these were on YouTube, by the way, but there were accounts such as, I believe my Kawaii Little Belly had just been banned at the time of this. Reason why I did not mention her is because she did nothing for me. I'm sorry, she did nothing for me. I know she was very famous and did manage to make quite a few people come. Not me. I did no idea why. She was of a fairly attractive shape. I loved her shape. But she just didn't do it for me. I don't understand it. Not to mention that she single-handedly and unwittingly drove the far superior Stuffed Belly Babe off of the website, and most likely to suicide. But anyway, new accounts like that, and also what quickly became my new favorite account at the time, Awesome Blossom. And this will forever go down in history. She will forever go down in my personal history. And you'll see why. So, I very much liked her videos at the time, strictly because she was just so... She was, of all of these people in this whole bloody community, she was perhaps the most ribald and lascivious and depraved and just all around a sexual monster. She was just very, very nasty indeed. She was open about sexuality, She was at times just a little bit gross, but the people, and myself included, absolutely loved her. And I loved her videos because the way she would talk about the fullness of her stomach, and also the noises that it would involuntarily make. That was perhaps the one thing at that time that most aroused me. When people don't try to make their stomach sound, when it does so involuntarily, that just had me Icelanding, if that makes any sense at all. Anyhow, so I would continue to watch Awesome Blossom exclusively, actually, well until the month of May. And you know what's coming. You know what is coming. I believe the third week of May this was. My father had, we had just had a cookout, a barbecue at my parents' house on Monday with my father, my brother, my mother, and myself, and we had a very good time doing it. And he had suggested that that week, I suppose, or maybe, well, yeah, it was on Tuesday that we did this, that we go down to the landfill to dispose of leaf litter. And at first I was kind of hesitant and such and all that, and I said, yeah, sure, I'll go with you. But I eventually ended up going with him. And we drove to this landfill to dispose of the leaf litter. And did so very confidently and pretty effortlessly, to be honest with you. We even joked that should my brother do this, he would be positively knackered. Really. And after that, he basically bought me I'm sorry. I need to catch my. I need just a few seconds to catch my breath. I'm just. He bought me an Arizona green tea, a can of it, after a hard day's work, and he bought one for himself and one for me, and we sipped it, and sipped it, and sipped it some more, and he took me back to my rental. And I was deciding what we should do for dinner tomorrow night, that next day, and we decided we'd have pizza and such. And he said that's a great idea. And as he was driving me to my house, my rental, he had missed the turn, and I said, "You missed the turn, unfortunately." And he said, "I did." And he goes ahead and turns his ute over the right direction and gets me to the house. And he deposits me at the door, but not without saying, "I'm here for you." And after that, he basically left. And I went about my own evening and such and all that, carrying out my own affairs. The next day, the 27th of May, I obviously had proposed to do a Sam Neill movie marathon, or review marathon. I don't know if I'll still do that, to be honest with you. The frequency of the availability of his films is rather mercurial, and just to watch all of them, to try and watch all of them would really just be a very daunting task and would be very difficult for me to do, because to try and find them would just be a pain, and I really don't know if I want to do that right now. But I had announced that I would do that, and had asked people if they wanted me to engage in that. And then obviously Ahab said, "Make it so," quoting Captain Picard from Star Trek: The Next Generation, and everyone was just excited about this. And so after I posted this video, I decided to go ahead and have a session with Awesome Blossom. In the middle of this session, coincidentally also, before this session, I had been reading Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth. I was about 50 pages in and was having a rough time with it. It was... The Lost World has better pacing than that. It was just kind of slow and slogging and just very sluggish in general. So I just decided to set the book down and have myself a session with Awesome Blossom. In the middle of this session, at around 11:28, I still remember the time, my brother phones me and he asks me, "Can you come down here? Can you come down and let me in?" And I said, "Sure, I can do that." And very hurriedly, I tried my best to get flaccid. I had not climaxed yet, but I tried my best to become flaccid, and it appears as though I had not been gratifying myself. And so I go to come down and notice that he's at the front door. And, he says, "How are you doing?" Or I say, "How are you doing?" He says he's doing fine and such and all that. But I notice that there is on his breast, or his chest rather, a name tag with his picture on there that was from some or another hospital. And I was thinking, what's going on here? He goes ahead, sits me down in the foyer next to the fireplace of that particular rental. And poor wretch, he just starts crying. Just crying his eyes out. Uncontrollable. My brother has a very sound fortitude about it. I have only seen him cry about once before that. And it's just heartbreaking to see that. And I was thinking, oh dear. My uncle had been experiencing some health problems in this time, and it has to do with him. And I said, I was kind of expecting that it had something to do with my uncle. And he kept saying to me, in the midst of his crying, "Be strong, be strong, be strong, And I said, "Okay, I will be. Just tell me what it is you want to talk to me about." And so he calms himself down as best he can, sits down and says that basically mother could not wake up father. And he just got back from seeing him at the hospital, and he wants me to go along with him. And I have no idea what to say to this. No idea at all what to say to this at all. So I just comply. And he drives me rather hurriedly to the hospital. I leave the dog alone for a little bit. He drives me very hurriedly to the hospital. We check in, and we oh God, I'm so sorry. It's just that I'm recalling all of this, and it's hard. It's so hard to look back on all this. We get in there, and mother's there, on the left side of the room and such, and there's Father on the bed, with hooked up a ventilator, still trembling, I suppose, from, I don't know, artificial breathing mechanisms and such and all that, but he looks just like Dad. That's what Mum said. I didn't know what to say at the time. I had no idea what to say at the time. So I just very indifferently said I love you to him. And we pretty much left after that. On our way back to my rental, my brother says to me that the stroke had pretty much went up into his brain, and that it was very likely that he was not going to make it. And so when I did get back to the rental, he just dropped me off there. I told him very vehemently to pray. Please, pray when you go and see him. Pray with all your might. Pray, 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 pray. And he left. Up until that point, I was a rabid atheist. I believed in evolution. I had once actually rebuked the Trinity. I was completely illiterate of Scripture. I basically had fiery debates with any creationists at all. I thought dinosaurs were the most extraordinary creatures ever to stalk the earth, and even thought that they actually existed. The evening that followed myself leaving hospital, I recalled this story that my father told me about my brother when his mother, because my mother and his mother are not the same mother, had him, that when he was a newborn baby, he had contracted a brain tumor, and every day when he was in stasis, my father would pray fervently that it might subside. And it worked. It worked wonders, because obviously my brother is still alive and well today, and I'm very fortunate for that. I supposed that were I to do the same thing, that Father would come out of this. And so I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. Dear God, please, God, I know I've not called upon you before, but please, God, if it means anything to you, do your best to save my father from this awful fate. Bring him out of this stasis. Let him walk among us again. Oh, please, God, heal him and have him be as he was less than 24 hours ago. And so I continued to pray. The very next day, the 28th of May, I I had no emotion whatsoever. I had no idea at all what to think about all this. I had just been told that my father was most likely dead, and that this was all very sudden and such and all that. I didn't want to believe it. I did not want to believe it at all. So that very next day, my room was upstairs. It was a two-story house, and I decided to sleep upstairs. I was going downstairs, and I accidentally tripped down the stairs and landed on my coccyx and pretty well bruised it. I could not sit for the life of me. And so I had informed my brother of this, and he so kindly came by and provided me with some, I suppose, icy hot patches, or however you call them, so that I might be able to fix my arse, my backside rather, and he was very kind and such. And he even asked me. He said to me that they were going to let him off the ventilator, and he asked me if I wanted to come and see him one last time. To which I initially said no, because I was in just so much pain. I could not sit on anything flat, on anything hard or flat. I could just lay on my side. That's how much pain and hemorrhaging I was in. It had occurred that morning. I said, no, I can't do this. I'm sorry, but I can't. I'm so sorry. I wish I could, but I can't. And so he says, okay, and leaves to suffer. And I suppose I watched Event Horizon for some reason, because, hey, Sam Neill marathon. And after a little while, I decided, no, I cannot let these people suffer. And I need to be sure that this was all true, because I didn't believe any of it. So I phoned up my brother and said, take me to hospital to see Father one more time. And he so kindly did. When I got there, I had asked everyone if they'd prayed. I had asked Mum and my brother if they had prayed, and they said yes. And they had also had provided something else, not by my request, but because of my request. There was a priest there who was basically giving Father his last rites. You know my reaction. I said, how dare you give him his life? Do you know who this is? This is my father. He cannot die. You charlatan. You miserable excuse for an evangelical. I command you to free him of this. And the priest, it was actually a female minister, which is even more wicked. She just said, sometimes in circumstances like this, God can give and take away life, or however, some other nonsense like that. And I said, if that is the case, then God is a red Indian. And basically had her leave the room along with the doctor. We were given I left the room a little bit because I didn't want to see it. I wanted to wait to see the ventilator be taken off. And I don't even think I could have done it. And mother went in to the waiting room and said, was trying to comfort me. Because I was just fuming at the time. She said to me, I don't want him to die either. I don't want him to die. Yeah. So, a few minutes pass, and we decide to go back in. The doctor ushers us in. A few minutes before, she actually takes off the ventilator. And so we say our final goodbyes. My mother does, my brother does, and the greatest regret in my life was that I have not said the words "I love you" to my father enough. Because, to be honest with you, we knew that. We were men. We were concerned about other things. We didn't need to get all caught up in sappy melodrama or anything like that. We knew that. It was innate. I caressed his still body and said for the very last time, I love you. And basically collapsed onto him into a quivering, blubbering mess and cried for the first time in over 10 years after himself commanding me not to. It was at once relieving and perfectly horrible. We did not see him take his last breath. My brother and I could not bear to see that. My brother had listened to his sort of guttural breathing, and that was enough for him. I don't know how I would have acted had I seen that. It'd be probably the most traumatic thing I've ever seen. That was the most traumatic thing I've ever seen, his dead body there. But that would have been even more traumatic. On the way home, my brother and I are just crying incessantly. We couldn't help it. We were miserable. We listened to the song Shooting Star by Bad Company, which I talked about this before in my videos about Father. And we were just that song just so, it was the perfect song. It was the perfect song. That's what my brother said. It was the perfect song. And so, once he dropped me off and left me behind, I had to accept the fact that my father had passed away. And immediately after that, I made that video informing you all, and I had taken my absence, a very long absence, from YouTube, trying to sort things out. The day after that, the 29th, I decided there could be no secrets between our family. And so, I implored everyone, my mother and brother, to expound upon me all of these secrets that they might have held. My mother, I don't quite remember what she said, but I guess she delayed the response behind ever letting us know about the news and such and all that. She delayed it by just a few minutes and all that. And my brother didn't have anything to hide. He just said, "I have nothing. You know everything." And what I said was, for the past year and a half, I have been on YouTube cultivating a wonderful fan base, wonderful community of friends. I've been posting videos. And I show them videos. And the very last thing that I said to them that day was, before my brother had showed up to my house to inform me of this unwanted piece of news, I was engaged in masturbation. To Awesome Blossom, no less. She will forever go down in history as the one to whom I nearly climaxed before I found out my father had left this earth. That is it for now. I am so sorry that this ended up being so long. This might be the longest of the talks, but I get so emotional. You've seen me frightened in this series. You've seen me just exhausted. You've seen me cry almost. You're gonna see me very angry later on. I'm going to go through a whole range of emotions through this. And I just hope that you all will be respectful and such, and will take this all to heart. But Awesome Blossom was the last person to whom I had masturbated before Father had left. And in the next part, I will tell just what I did after this. The events leading up to my father's funeral, and how I went about carrying out my fetish in the midst of a newly generated spiritual crisis. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to go ahead and relax a bit, try and decompress, because I am very worked up right now. This was very difficult for me. I'm sorry. But I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for this is part 4. Stay tuned for the next part, which is part 5. And God bless you all.